Toll in Gaza has just crossed 1,300. Most of those killed are civilians, some of whom died when an Israeli shell hit a UN shelter for the internally displaced. Imtiaz Tayyid spoke to some of the survivors.
Doctors work frantically to treat the wounded. The emergency ward of the Kamal Odawan hospital was overwhelmed after Israeli forces shelled a UN school being used as a shelter just after dawn. The majority of the dead and wounded are women and children. This man says he was asleep when the attack happened.
All of a sudden, tank shells started falling all around us. We were showered with shrapnel. Men, women, and children started running everywhere. It was terrifying.
Well, it's a pretty chaotic scene here at the Kamal Erdogan Hospital as medical workers try to treat the sheer volume of casualties. And while people here are no doubt mourning the loss of their loved ones, they're also asking themselves where they can stay that's safe.
This classroom was supposed to be safe. All that's left are the remnants of the lives of the people who took shelter here shortly after Israel began bombarding the Gaza Strip more than 3 weeks ago. It's not the first time a United Nations school full of displaced people has been hit by the Israeli military. Abu Muhammad works for the UN. He tells me it likely won't be the last.
There is no safe place in Gaza, not a school, not a mosque. People came to this UN school for shelter. I have no idea what to tell them where to go.
Mohammed Odawan shows me where she and 20 of her family members sleep. It's only steps away from the classroom that was shelled. She tells me she won't leave.
My house has already been destroyed. Where else can I go? Am I supposed to sleep in the street? Even the street isn't safe. Even if they bomb this place again, I won't leave. I have nowhere else to go.
An Israeli military spokeswoman has said the attack is being reviewed, but that's small comfort to those who have no choice but to stay here. Imtiaz Tayyid, Al Jazeera, at the Jabaliya refugee camp, Gaza.
Well, at least 6 UN facilities have been hit since the offensive began 3 weeks ago. They act as refugee shelters in times of conflict. The UN operates 85 shelters in the Gaza Strip. More than 200,000 people are living in these facilities. Well, Chris Gunnis is the spokesman for the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian refugees in the Near East. He told us how the attack unfolded.
Look, last night, children were killed as they slept next to their parents on the floor of a classroom in a UN-designated shelter. Children killed in their sleep. This is an affront to all of us, a source of universal shame. Today, the world stands disgraced. We've visited the site, we've gathered evidence, we've analysed fragments, we've examined craters and other damage, and our initial assessment is that it was Israeli artillery that hit our school, in which 3,300 people had sought refuge. We believe there were at least 3 impacts. It's too early to give a confirmed official death toll, but we know that there were multiple civilian deaths and injuries, including of women and children, and the UNRWA who was trying to protect the site. These are people, by the way, who were instructed to leave their homes by the Israeli army. We condemn in the strongest possible terms this serious violation of international law by Israeli forces. We have moved beyond the realm of humanitarian action alone. We're in the realm of accountability. So UNRWA calls on the international community to take deliberate international political action to put an end to this continuing carnage.
Imtiaz has now moved on to a different part of Gaza. Joins us now live from there. Imtiaz, just a few minutes ago, we saw pictures, looks like smoke rising over parts of Gaza City. How much of an actual pause is there to the fighting right now?
Well, at this stage, it really hasn't been much of a pause at all. In fact, I can tell you that in the last few minutes, we've been told by our sources in the Beit Leah area of the Gaza Strip, which is on the eastern border, that there's heavy shelling going on there right now, heavy Israeli shelling, and that 2 Palestinians have been killed. And really, it just underscores the fact that although the Israeli military has declared, unilaterally, I might add, has declared this 4-hour humanitarian window, the fighting certainly hasn't stopped.
And the shelling today of a UN school just really underscoring that little, if anywhere, in Gaza is really safe for people to take refuge in.
That's right, and as you heard in my report, we talked to a number of survivors there, and they're saying that they're not going to leave that school that was shelled because, frankly, they have nowhere else to go. They don't believe that they can stay in a mosque there. That's not safe for them. They tell us that their homes are certainly not safe, and they go as far as saying they can't even sleep in the streets because the streets are not safe. And so they have little choice but to stay in areas which have now been targeted, UN-designated safe areas, I should say, which have now been targeted 2 times by Israeli shelling. So the uncertainty that Gazans have been experiencing for the past 3 weeks, over 3 weeks now, is only continuing, and this 4-hour pause or humanitarian window, as the Israeli military has described it, certainly hasn't brought any peace to people, particularly along the border areas in the east and the north, and of course here in the Gaza Strip, as we saw just a few minutes ago.
All right, Imtiaz Taib there reporting to us live from Gaza. Thanks for that.